Welcome to a Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and once again I'm delighted to be joined on Matchday by Colin Watt. We're going to be looking at the St Johnstone game. Colin, what's your thoughts? I remember watching with interest the last game here at McDermott Park. It wasn't easy. Yep. I think there was a lot of issues even back then that we haven't fully cleared up. We've seen the team lines. I see Sean Maloney's on the commentary team on Sky Sports. There's a lot of people looking at Sean Maloney as a potential future coach at Celtic, Colin. All of these things are still being discussed. Our main rivals yesterday went out and won 1-0. It's another narrow win for them. Can Celtic go out today and claw back some of this huge goal difference, do you think?
I think this will be a difficult game today. Certainly, if you look at the games that we've played against St Johnstone so far this season, it's not been, as what you would say, an easy game. At home, we drew 1 each. It took until the 83rd minute for Elyounoussi to get the goal. And away from home at McDermott Park the last time, although the game finished 2-0, it was 2 goals in the 91st and 93rd minutes, I think it was, from Griffiths and Klimala. So they're certainly going to be a strong team to play against today. I think they're on a good run of form. If you take out the loss to Rangers at Ibrox, they've not lost in the last sort of 5 or 6. They've beaten teams like Hibs, St Mirren, drew with Aberdeen, beat Kilmarnock, and they won last week against Livingston, ending Livingston's run. So this is going to be a really tricky game today. The surface at McDermott is never the best. And with the recent weather, I can imagine that being every bit as bad today. Look, we've got to get the service to Eddie. He's playing really well so far. I think it's 5 goals in 5 games. The only thing is, I'm surprised that we go back to 1 up front again. I thought you've got to give the chance for Eddie and Ajeti to put that partnership together. And you bring in someone like Ryan Christie, who came off the bench the other day and scored a goal. If that's all you've got to do to get yourself into the team, then that's quite a worrying thing. Because if he doesn't score today, does that mean he's dropped again and we bring someone else in? You want to see a bit of consistency in this team selection, and you want to give the chance to put partnerships together. We've not really done that at all this season.
Well, consistency is the big word, Colin. It's a word that's been used by Neil Lennon himself in relation to team selection. It's been one of the biggest issues, I feel, this season when you look at some of the forced changes, obviously, but also, change for change's sake. You're trying to develop a partnership with Edouard and Ajeti, but there's a default setting in the team selection by Neil Lennon, and often the default setting is go to Rogic, go to Christie. And as you say, he did praise Christie after the game. He praised him coming on, saying that he looked rejuvenated. I don't know how you can say that after a short appearance like that. And I know also that Ryan Christie's not your favourite Celtic player in the world, Colin. He was subject to one of the discussions on the ACSOM bulletin during the week there, and Anthony Haggerty was speaking about the ineffectiveness and the potential, I guess, for him to move on. I think, what was the quote? Ryan Christie's a player. David Turnbull's a player Ryan Christie thinks he is. Yeah. David Turnbull's been a revelation. We'll run through the team. Now, when you look at the back, as I say, it's a forced change. It seems as though, regardless of everything else that's happened, Colin, we've been really unlucky with injuries at the back this season, haven't we?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I did say, I think in the summer window and in the January window, you really had to get 4 centre-halves in. Yeah. And we don't. And this is a scenario we're left with. I know Welsh came back into training the other day, but we always knew he wasn't going to play today, considering the injury he picked up through the week. So it does leave you with a centre-half partnership of Duffy and Aya. Now, on paper, if you look at that, taking out how Duffy's played this season, if you would just come in and seen a centre-half pairing of Duffy and Aya, you'd think, all right, that's fine. That's been brilliant. But then when you see how Duffy's played this season, he's absolutely bottled it when he's been on. There's been very few occasions where you've said, oh, Duffy's had a great game today. A lot of the time he just looks as if his head's not in it. He can't get up to the standard that they need to play at. And Ayer's really going to have to do a lot of the work. The interesting battle today, I think, will be between Shane Duffy and I was about to say Theresa May. It's not Theresa May, it's Stevie May.
Theresa May. Yeah, Stevie May, yes.
In fact, he's not even playing. I've just noticed that. I've just seen this in Johnstone.
So there was more chance of Theresa May then.
Exactly. So Chris Kane is the striker, and he's the guy that got the goal at Celtic Park earlier on in the season. So he'll be the one that will match up against Duffy. You look at their forward line; they've got Conway, Witherspoon, and Kane, and I think Ali McCann's going to be the one that you have to take a look out for. I have a feeling he's going to try and run the midfield today. Interesting to see Sorrow is nowhere near the starting lineup, despite the fact he's been probably one of our more consistent performers so far. Brown's came in and played the midfield general role. That battle between him and McCann today, that'll be the big one. Where that battle's won will be where the game is won.
Now, we will run through the team back to front, Colin, but some points you've made there we'll revisit in relation to the likes of Sorrow. The fact that, there was a goalkeeper situation and Neil Lennon, said that Barkas was the number one. Obviously, Hazard had been dropped. Now Bain's the number one. If we're looking for consistency and being played on form, I think Sorrow will be feeling rather disappointed and hard done by that he has dropped off the radar and back onto that bench. Now, we know that Scott Brown has been a talisman over the years. No one's going to deny the success he's had as a captain and how influential he is, Colin. But if anything, between now and the end of the season, I think 99.9% of Celtic supporters or anyone even with a passing interest in the club realises that the league is gone. Other than a totally unexpected capitulation by Rangers, the league is gone. So surely you start planning for the future. And this was one of the big discussion points on Friday, Colin. You start planning for the future, and part of that plan would be to, continue to play people like Sorrow. Scott Brown, 36 in June. How many more seasons does he have in a Celtic jersey? Why play him 3 times a week? The point was made by Declan actually on Friday. Why play Scott Brown 3 times a week when you could have this Sorrow put back in a team? Sorrow was part of a mini revival in December, and for some reason he's dropped off the radar.
Yeah, I don't understand the Sorrow thing. I know there's been sort of excuses made for times he's been left out the squad. When you look at the cup final back in December, it was that he had food poisoning. Then the other day it was he crashed his car on the way into training. But I mean, if you're fit enough to make the bench, surely you're fit enough to start a game. I know Brown has been relatively decent since he came in, but as you said, playing someone like that 3 times a week it's a lot to ask for someone. I mean, it only got till this season before we started taking Scott Brown off. We've ran Scott Brown into the ground for the last 10, 11 seasons, playing him 90 minutes week in and week out. This should have been the time where we started to develop guys like Sorrow to bring them into the team. I mean, you saw it under Rodgers in his last season. He was always looking for someone to help out Scott Brown. That's why we brought in someone like Malumbu. It was to be that they could rotate the squad. They could bring him on for the last half hour of games and he would play the exact same role as Scott Brown plays. But as you said, he's now turning 36 and we're still relying on him to play 3 games a week. It's a lot. And I don't know. As you say, we should be planning for the future. And if it's not going to be Sorrow, then who is it going to be? Because what I've seen from Sorrow so far this season suggests to me that he can make that step up. It's just got to be. Lennon apparently sees.
It's got to be Sorrow, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, if you look at it, obviously, from our point of view, if he's not playing, Neil Lennon's not seeing it. And the question would be, what is Neil Lennon seeing different from what we see?
We've been asking that all season, Colin. Now, not taken away from the fact that I think Scott Brown came on in the last game we played at McDiarmid Park and was very influential, and I get that, and I know that he still has that influence, Colin. But if we are looking towards the future, because otherwise these games are almost pointless if you're not planning towards the future, even if Neil Lennon's not going to be in charge at Celtic, and I still don't think he will be next season, you've got to start bleeding these people in. And I think when you're looking at contrary to that, rather, easy for me to say, left back Laxalt, he's not our player, he's not playing. You're going with Taylor because surely he's a better option for the future. So it puzzles me a wee bit when you look at that decision at the back, but then you look at the decision of Scott Brown in midfield. How are you feeling in relation to the fullbacks and the balance that has been given by John Joe Kenny since he's come in after the departure of Frimpong?
There was a really good, and I can't remember who made the point, so if you did make it, pop up in the comments, but someone said the other day that Kenny was more of a Mikael Lustig type, and that's what I've seen from him so far this season. Lustig was always great at making the run forward, but he was always a defensive cover option as well. And when you compare it to the likes of Frimpong, it was one of Frimpong's biggest weaknesses, was getting the final ball over, but also his defending at the back at times was questionable at best.
Mm-hmm.
Kenny's offered that stability in that role, and I think it is quite frustrating that it's taken a loan signing to come in and offer that, knowing that again in the summer you're going to need to look to replace that player. It's not someone of our own that we can develop. And you take a look at it on the bench today, Anthony Ralston. That's another boy that's probably not got a future at Celtic, but we don't have anybody under that we can say, right, let's bring in X, and X is going to be the number 2 right back next season. He's the youth player. He's the player that we want to develop. He's the one that can learn from watching Kenny, from training with Kenny week in, week out, and we can develop him for next season so that you've got 2 players there. You take a look at it, it's exactly what happened with Kieran Tierney and Emilio Izaguirre. Izaguirre was always the first choice left back, and it was up to Tierney to learn from him. Eventually Tierney became better than him, and we were able to fix that void that we had when Izaguirre came out the team by bringing in a quality left back. That's what we should be doing with the guys that's coming through, not just kind of sticking them on the bench, giving them 15 minutes here and there. Build up the partnership, get the mentoring going there. I don't know if you've had the chance to hear it, but there was a fantastic interview carried out with Jack Aitchison. Jack Aitchison came out and says basically there was no pathway for a lot of these young players to make the step up from the youth team to the first team, and it's something that we've been going on and on and on about for the last sort of 12, 18 months. You look at the amount of players that are leaving Celtic to go to the likes of Germany, to even go down south, because they think there's a better chance of them making the first team there than what there is at Celtic. And that should be a worrying thing for players that's coming through. How can you attract the best young talent to Celtic when there is no pathway for them to make the first team? And that's something that's really happened since Lennon came back into management here at Celtic.
The thing is, Colin, it's going to have to change, because Celtic moving forward, your post-COVID, post-Brexit, are going to have to look at their entire structure in terms of the transfer market, the recruitment, obviously, and youth development. And youth development, there needs to be more of a focus due to the fact that it won't be a case of us buying 4 or 5 project signings, at 2 or 3 million quid. We won't be able to financially, but we also won't be able to in terms of getting the work permits for the types of players we've been bringing in. So we need to have a focus on the youth development, because actually when you look at the amount of players who have already gone, and in this pre-season, Colin, a few others are going to follow, it's almost, the nucleus of an entire team is going to be leaving Celtic Park youth-wise. These are guys that could be your next Kieran Tierney or your next James Forrest or Callum McGregor, yet they don't have that pathway. So it's interesting to hear someone who has faced those challenges at Celtic Park coming out and speaking along those lines. You just got to look at the situation at right back, though, Colin. It's terrible when you look at the actual squad management, right? Mm-hmm. So whilst we have Mikael Lustig in place, we bring in Toljan from Borussia Dortmund, a 7 or 8 million euro right back, who doesn't cement his place in the team. Lustig actually wins his jersey back. We then bring in Maurice Boyer, another one of your favourites, who comes in, international footballer, and I know you didn't rate him. I thought his distribution was pretty good, to be fair, but he comes in short term, nothing comes of the deal. Let's be honest here, we didn't bring in Jeremy Frimpong thinking he's going to be our right back for the next 2 seasons. No one thought that was going to happen, Neil Lennon included. And I remember speaking to one of the scouts at Celtic when we brought in Frimpong and O'Connor, and he basically says we're not quite sure which one is going to be a first team material, but the other one will end up going out on loan. And that shows you the margins, the fine margins. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Frimpong comes in, he proves himself, he gets the jersey. The question around whether or not he was actually a right back remains for me. Mm-hmm. But again, even though he's there and you can see his progress, and he is going at a meteoric kind of rate and clubs are interested, where's the planning, Colin? Where is the backup? So we're now in a situation where we, until recently, had El Hamid as a right back. He wasn't playing through injury and other reasons. He's now gone. Ralston was then your next right back. So we start playing Ayer out of position. So the whole squad management there, and part of that is the youth development, as you say, Colin, because we can't say Ralston's the next youth. Surely there should have been another one behind him who should have been pushing for a place before now, because Ralston's been in and around the first team squad since Brendan Rodgers was in charge. So it's bad squad management for me, and that's why we go out and it's a panic buy. It's a panic loan deal to bring in John Joe Kenny. Is there an opportunity at the end of this to do what we did with El Yunusi? Probably more of an opportunity to do that than to buy him outright, because I'm guessing the transfer fee will be in the region of £7 or £8 million, which I'm not sure when you're looking at the restructuring, the rebuilding job on the Celtic manager's hands at the end of the season. £7 or £8 million for a right back won't be a priority, will it?
No, I mean, there's going to be a massive squad rebuild required in the summer. You take a look at a lot of the players that are even playing today. I don't know if Scott Bain will be here next season. Duffy won't be here next season. Kenny won't be here next season. Brown could potentially retire. His contract's up in the summer. So that's 4. McGregor, Rogic, Turnbull. Rogic's already been linked with moves away before. So let's say one of the 3 of them go. That's 5. Christie and Eddie, they've both been linked with moves away. The likelihood is that Odsonne Edouard won't be here next season. Ryan Christie may also not be here. That's 6 or 7 players from today's starting 11 that won't be at the club next season. You take a look on the bench as well. Diego Laxalt will go back to his loan club. El Yunusi will go back to his loan club. And then what happens? You're basically left to rebuild that whole squad, and that's a team that we're putting out today that we hope can get the 3 points. That's the team that Neil Lennon believes is the strongest 11 to win this game today. And out of the 20-man squad, you're talking maybe 9 or 10 of them. Almost half are going to be leaving the club in the summer. That's how big of the rebuilding job we've got going on next season. And Lennon said the other day, the team's almost fully fit. All we're really missing is James Forrest to come back into that side.
And Julian.
So what happens there? I mean, it's quite scary how big of the rebuilding job is going to be done. It's either going to take a lot of investment or it's going to need to be shrewd business done in the summer. And at the minute, we've not shown that we can do that shrewd business.
Colin, I think there's more chance of the latter, to be honest, because we're going to be in a situation where the finances simply aren't going to be as readily available for all the obvious reasons. Of course, will the season tickets be sold in such numbers for next season as well is a massive consideration. Bringing someone in, is that person already employed? Is there going to be a compensation package for that? There's another consideration in terms of the management. Yep. Colin, there's talk of a director of football, brand new position being created. There's another kind of outlay in terms of the football department. But when you're looking at the restructuring of that side, I look at the situation with Christie and Ayer and Edouard and think to myself, well, you know, I know your thoughts on Christie and I know he divides opinion. We can't afford to lose all 3 of them this summer. We've already lost what you would maybe describe as a star man in Frimpong. We can't lose another 3 in the one go. And I think that the way we'll do our business will be very much, you look at that Frimpong deal, you look at how we cashed in on him and then replaced him basically with a loan signing. Now, I don't know the structure of that loan deal. I don't know if it's going to be similar to the loan deals that we got for El Yunusi and Duffy, whereby there's an upfront fee. I think a lot of loan deals do entail that upfront fee now as well. So you could be talking millions, Colin, for a player who actually isn't going to be your player. You then possibly are paying 50% of big wages if we're bringing these guys in from teams down south. So would the Celtic support be enthused by that? You know, selling your top 3 players, very much like the Frimpong deal, and bringing in 3 replacements that might not even be permanent replacements, because I think that's going to be key to us ensuring that the quality is still there. We can't go out and sign a player like John Joe Kenny right now because of the outlay. No. If you're going to replace Edouard, who do you replace him with? Do you replace him with someone who has the promise, i.e. another Edouard coming in from French academies, etc.? That's quite risky. I mean, Edwards had time to develop at Celtic. He came in when we already had Dembele there, going back to what you were talking about, developing a player under the kind of mentorship of someone who's a few years ahead of them. I don't think we have that luxury. We need to bring in ready-made players. Otherwise, you're facing a period which, again, we've spoken about before, Colin, whereby you've given up the league title, but how long are you giving it up for? Are we going to go out and win it again, or is it going to be a period of 2 or 3 years? And then again, that compounds all the issues we've already discussed in terms of season ticket sales, and then the problem becomes bigger because you're actually you're handing that baton of strength and power to Rangers.
Well, the point you made there about how long would it be, I mean, this season there's been absolutely no challenge from Celtic. Never at any point from October onwards has it ever been a case where you're thinking, we're really putting the pressure on Rangers here. We're really forcing them to win the title. We've dropped points left, right and centre. Rangers could continue to drop points from now to the end of the season. They'd still win the league because you can't guarantee that Celtic would win every single game. And that's just the way it's been. You want the new manager to come in, and his first job would be to make sure that there's pressure on the title, to make sure that you're going for it. Then, from then onwards, you are wanting to start getting back to the way that it's been over the last 9 years. You want to get back to start rebuilding and to start dominating again. I mean, the drop-off in standards this year has been absolutely staggering. And it's just, you couldn't have done it any better if you tried deliberately to sabotage Celtic this season. I mean, we've been absolutely nowhere near challenging at all.
I think again though, the big thing with that, Colin, a lot of these issues have come home to roost. These have been issues that have been poor long-term planning. I mean, you just take the right back, for example, the centre-half situation where we still are playing beat-on regularly throughout a season, out of position. I remember during the time of writing the Andy Lynch book, sitting watching a game with Andy, and we're playing Ajax. So you're probably going back to 2015. And we had concerns that Beaton was playing centre-half. That was 6 years ago. We're still doing it.
There's always been a case with Celtic when it gets to the qualifiers that you look at the centre-half partnership and then you look at it sort of 3-4 months down the line when you're either in the group stage of whatever competition you make it into, and you go, how did we get to that stage without it?
We just scraped by. Owen O'Connell, remember?
Yeah, always seemed to come into play. And it was like him and Beaton at centre-half, or it was someone that was about to depart the club that was playing at centre-half alongside someone else. And it was really, really poor. I mean, the best example of that was Cluj. Now, Cluj we lost to in the Champions League qualifiers, and I think the centre-half partnership that night was really poor. And then you take a look at the game at Celtic Park in the group stage, and we'd developed so far beyond that, to the point where we'd qualified out the group before we even got to go over and play Cluj. So...
You're playing Cluj, Colin. You're playing Cluj with Callum McGregor at left back. You've got a £3 million left back sitting on the bench alongside a £7 million centre half. It is something that obviously is a big concern just now. People are saying, every single time Celtic, for example, tweet out anything on the official page, all you see is the Lennon avatar with the red ring round it. Okay, and that you see it. Loads of people are buying into that. Now, my bigger concern is that it's so short term in terms of the actual planning. I mean, you think about somebody coming in, Colin, with the upheaval we've already spoken about, the potential upheaval of the squad, getting to know and assess your squad also, but at the same time trying to prepare them for the qualifiers that are coming in thick and fast. It's an almost impossible task. It's difficult enough if the manager's already in place to do that, if they're already in place just now. But come the end of the season, if we have that managerial change, all these things we've just discussed that have been issues for years and years, not preparing quickly enough, not getting the players in quickly enough for Champions League qualifiers. It's going to be, Groundhog Day this pre-season after the season that we've just had as well. I'm keen to get into some of the comments coming in from people who are watching on Twitter, Facebook and on YouTube. Zinko Vix, name that movie on the avatar, Colin. It's maybe before your time. Good morning, Halloween. Good morning, everyone. Hope we are well. No Welsh or no. And it was when was the Ferencvaros game? When was that moment Colin, where I remember you were in the studio, you were allowed to be here, you were with Kevin Maguire, and at the end of the game, you just thought, this is it, Lennon's ballsed it up again. I mean, what was that? That was before me, so that was well before October.
Yeah, I think that was late August, maybe early September. Long time ago.
I know, and we're still sitting here talking about it. And some of the issues that we have had this season with the fact that we played that game without a striker, if you remember, Ryan Christie was a lone striker that night. All about the preparation of the squad, making sure that we've got the right people in place, yet we're still talking about it because the likelihood is, Colin, we'll be in that same position come the summer. I don't even know what you're saying, but I'm bringing this up just for the name, Kinky Cadetti. Three tens, no width, and two full-backs who can't cross. A geriatric in the engine room, and Duffy looking to add to his bloopers reel. Now, I think we've spoken about most of that, but you've just managed to do it in one comment, Kinky Cadet. What's your thoughts on that? I mean, if we really are looking at the kind of negatives, we could say that you're spot on. Sometimes we try our best to pull out the positives, though, Colin. Are you concerned about today's game? I mean, that's a heavy pitch at the best of times at McDermott, so I'm expecting that to play its part for both sides. I mean, I remember the quagmire that was developing when we beat them in the cup there. The aforementioned Christie scored from the free kick, 1-0. So yeah, that's going to be a concern. But I mean, I'm not looking for excuses. I mean, we've heard excuses all season. Are you concerned that we're not going to win that game today?
I have a feeling it'll be a very tight game. There's going to probably be the odd goal in it. I would not be surprised to see Celtic draw here today. St Johnstone are coming into a good run of form. We've changed the system all over again. A couple of players coming back in that haven't played in a while. As I said, 3 number 10s. You're looking at Rogic, Turnbull and Christie. Who's going to play where? And then Eddie up front, we have to get the service to him. So I wouldn't be surprised if we drop points today, I'll be honest.
Where are we second here? Chadderston, Kinky Cadetti, bang on. I'm going to bring this up, McGrory, because I don't agree with you. The usual get-along gang who get their posts shown. I mean, whoever makes a good point gets their post shown. There's also a situation here with the programme that we use, Colin, that literally every single comment that's coming in from YouTube, Twitter and Facebook all appear on my screen. It's not as though I can filter that to YouTube comments, Facebook, Twitter. And quite frankly, the screen is going at such a rate, it's scrolling at such a rate on the right-hand side that it's not possible. It wouldn't be possible to go through every single person's comments. But if a comment, for example, has been made on Duffy, I'm not going to bring up another one, so I'm trying to get a cross-section. But believe it or not, McGrory, there is no favouritism as to whose comments come up. So Moravchik, there you go, there's a random one. I've just clicked it on the screen. Moravchik 25. Even getting Damien Duffin for the remainder of this season would give any new manager better preparation. I mean, I think when you're looking at the management team, Colin, my biggest concern is there's going to be a whole new management team that need to completely assess a squad, lose key players, and also prepare not only for the Champions League qualifiers, but a tilt at getting that league title back, because it's so important not to leave it for 2 or 3 seasons. We cannot allow that power, that domination, the pendulum to swing to Ibrox for that period of time.
No, you don't want to be in that position. And if this is the same Moravchik 25 as the guy that's on Twitter, it's an account definitely worth following, especially when it comes round to the European qualifications and the coefficients and stuff like that. Really lays it out very well. But no, it's, as you say, it's a pendulum. It's definitely swung out of our favour this season. And what you have to do is do the best that you can to bring it back. I mean, look at the players that have just regressed this season. You take a look at it, there's still a lot of the core of what's won the last 9 titles there. Yeah. There's good players in there, but they're just not producing it. And why is that? Well, that's up to everyone else to debate. In my opinion, it's down to management.
Chad Chadderson, thanks for the support. PG out. And also Francis W, 4-1 Celtic. So give me a prediction, Colin. How do you see it going today? No more sitting on the fence. Come on, give me a prediction.
Okay, I'm on it. I'm going with 1 each.
1 each.
1 each. 1 each.
There's a real airy positivity. Christie, first goal then?
No, I think Ali McCann will score for St Johnstone, and we'll get 1 in the second half.
3-0 Celtic, Eddie first goal for me. The huddle has just broken up. We're ready to kick off. Colin Watt will be back at half-time with me for the ACSOM match day. We'll make sure we bring up random people that have never had screen time before to keep everybody happy, and we'll see you at half-time. Thanks everybody for joining us on a Celtic